not a good option to buy this.
Perfect. Thank you, Jonathan, for reminding that I should be recording. I did start recording, and I think it stops when you go into breakout sessions. And usually it starts recording again when you come back to the main room, but I'm recording it now. So that was group 3, right? Yep. Thank you. Your answers are correct. And so again, this formula that you have, be ready with your formula easily accessible during the test. You don't want to go searching for something and wasting time. So if you're asked to find general probability expected value, then immediately know that this E of X is what you need to find. There's another step which is not asked in the problem that I just gave you, but usually with expected value, the next step is, okay, what's the variance or what's the standard deviation? So be prepared to answer that too. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next group. I'm sharing my screen with group 4's problem. And can someone explain to us what it is you did, group 4? So group 4 was chapter 6.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and explain. This is asking the probability that all three businesses are owned by women. So the study showed that 25% of all firms in the country are owned by women. So that's the probability. There's two ways you can solve it. You can do 0.25 times 0.25 times 0.25, or to the power of 3, and that's the answer, 0.015625. Or you can round it to 6.016, or you can use Excel. It's binom dist. 3 is because there are 3 firms. Probability is 0.25, and then you would have to use false, and that's the answer that you get.
Okay, perfect. Your answers are correct. Just a reminder, if you're using it with a calculator, this formula, it's the factorial formula. Okay, it just so happens to be the same values here, but it's that long factorial formula. So you can use Excel, get practice using Excel when you're doing your homework, because what if you get a lot of values, right? And you don't want to do it manually for all of them. But yes, your answers are correct. I'm going to move on to the next group. So that's group 5 coming up. And group 5, you did the Poisson distribution. So who wants to explain? I'm checking your numbers. Your numbers are correct. Okay. So who can explain? So part A says, are you going to choose binomial or Poisson? And you're saying that it's a given interval of time or space. So for that reason, Poisson, that's correct. And then the mean is this value. What is the probability? So you use the Poisson distribution formula and came up with this. Does anyone want to add to what we're seeing here? No? No one wants to talk from this group? Okay. Okay, Judah, you don't want to say anything? Okay. All right, you get a pass. So let's go to group 6. Okay, so group 6, you were doing the normal distribution. Now this is a typical question in your homework and a typical question that I would have on the test. It's not an easy problem. It's a bit confusing really. Some of you struggled with it in the homework. But get used to drawing your graph. I know it's tough to do it on the Google Doc, but have a sheet of paper in front of you and draw your graph. So the first thing is you're asked the highest 10% of these funds. So let me first check that you got the right answer. Yeah, your answers are correct. Yeah. So highest 10%, you draw your graph, and highest means you're shading to the right. So it's only one tail to the right that you shade. And you're given the percentage. That means you're given the area. So you have to work backwards. So this group did a good job of explaining it in detail. And I know it's tough on a Google Doc, and you still did that. So looks great. Anyone want to explain to us part A?
I can explain. Can you hear me?
Yep.
So, basically, when I look at the problem, you just take the percentage. So since it's the top highest percentage, you
Yep.
convert that into a decimal. Then you do 1 minus that decimal, and you get that number, so 0.9, and then you go to the chart. I kind of like doing it manually, but you want to make sure that it's the right side of the chart so that your numbers are positive, and you get 1.282, and you convert the numbers from the percentages to decimals again, but it's already given to you. And then from there, you take your standard deviation and mean, and you plug it into the formula mean plus b table value times standard deviation, and that's how you get your answer.
Okay. So just this part might be confusing. Remember the formula? It's x minus mu over sigma. So when you need to transform x into z, right? That's the whole idea here. You're transforming x into z. So yes, that's the correct answer. So you did a good job here with chapter 7. I'm going to move on to the next group. So sharing my screen with group 8. Okay, group 8, can someone explain? Oh, did I miss group 7? I did. Okay, sorry. Let's stop and let me go back to group 7. Group 7. Okay, group 7. So you were doing sample size for proportion. I'm checking your answers here. It's correct. Can someone explain to us how you came about part A? So this is, you're asked to find the sample size when you're dealing with proportions. You're asked to find n. And there's a formula that I gave you in chapter 11 lecture PowerPoint slides with the sample size formula. So that's what you will use to find n. And everything is really given to you in the question, your confidence, your amount of error, and you would have to look up the z-value. So that's correct, and that's how you find the sample size for proportion. So you have to make sure that you're dealing with proportion and not mean, because that would have been a different formula. So in today's review, you only did sample size for proportion. You also have to practice when you're studying for the exam, sample size for mean. Part B says, what if you reduced margin of error? What happens to the new sample size? Well, when error goes down, your sample size increases, and that value is correct. let's look at these answer choices. They didn't have time to do the answer choices at the bottom here. What do you think the answer would be? So maybe I should put A. So you can type in the chat box what you think this answer would be. So Erica uses the sample size would be too large. Let me quickly read this. Yes. Yep, that's the answer. So I'll highlight that for you. So the answer would be A. Yep. Okay, so this is about sample size for proportion. So I'm going to move on to the last group, which is group 8, sharing my screen with group 8. So you have confidence interval for mean. Now again, a reminder, you also have to practice confidence interval for proportion, but I didn't give you a review problem for that in today's class. Okay, so who wants to explain from group 8?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, so we had to find the critical t-value. So we used Excel to do that. And then we came with 2.018082. And then to find the confidence interval, we did the mean plus or minus the t-value times our standard deviation multiplied by the square root of n. So that we plug that into 42. And we got a confidence interval being 244.41 to 288.94.
That's the only thing. The values are slightly off. Let me see. I'm going to put in here. This is what I was getting as an answer. It's slightly off here, so I'm not sure if it's because of the confidence level. But I'm going to put this here, okay? Saying not sure if correct. But your method looks right. Everything seems fine. That's your n, your standard deviation. Yeah, everything seems right. And you're using t because you're given sample standard deviation. Yeah, I don't see what went wrong, but this is what the answer, I think, should be. Okay, so I'll just put that there. And then reading your part C. So in this case now it's different, right? Yeah, so Judah makes a point in the chat box. You might have switched the parentheses when you did your calculation here, so be careful with that. So check where your parentheses should be and which ones you're doing first. So if you are doing it on your calculator, first do the square root, get that answer. Then do the 12 over the square root. Then do that times t. Then plus or minus the x value. Okay, so for part C, what do you think the answer should be now? the daily mean that they said in this question is 132. So in this case, now we have to switch this, and I'm going to say that this would be the correct answer, right? There's a 95% confidence that the interval does contain the mean daily income, because the mean daily income is $132. And so this interval has $132. Okay, any questions? So this is correct. Everything else is correct. Zhao Ting, you have a question saying, when do we use the t-table? So in this case, if we look at the question, let's go back here, right? So you're asked to find confidence interval. That means you need to use that formula x bar plus or minus, then z or t, and the rest of it. So the question is, when do you use z, when do you use t? Well, we always use t when we don't know what the population standard deviation is. So when you read this question here, it doesn't say anything about the population standard deviation. It does say something about standard deviation, but let's see what it is about. It's about the sample, it's about the average for the sample, and the standard deviation for the sample. So you're given S. This is the value for S, sample standard deviation. That means you use the T table. Okay, so you're going to use the T table when you do the confidence interval for mean, when you don't know what the mean sigma value is. Okay, this looks good. I'm going to stop sharing here. So anyone have any specific questions? So I put earlier in the chat box that your exam is on December 17th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. After class today, I'm going to send out a detailed email with that information, with the chapters that you need to study for the test, and a document that has all these problems together set up as a review. Okay, so if you don't have any more questions, I wish you the best of luck during this exam time. It was a pleasure having you in class. You can email me, and enjoy your holidays.
Wait, so you said the test is on the 17th?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Check your emails, because I will be sending an email with information.
Definitely.
Hey, Professor. And this exam is worth 20% of our grade, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I
I can.
think it's not on the syllabus, something like
Yeah,
that.
whatever it says on the syllabus. Yeah. And
Okay.
yep.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Professor. So we don't have class on next Tuesday?
No, today's our last class.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Professor, last thing, for the course evaluation, like, do you give out the link for us, or?
I'll send that through the email that I'm sending out.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a
You're
good one.
welcome. You too.
Hi, Professor.
Wait, sorry, what time would the test be from? Like regular class time? Or
No, so the time and the date is given to us through CUNY first. It's from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
all
Thanks,
right,
Jonathan. He just posted it on the chat box.
Professor, in the final, you said it counts 30% of the grade, right? 30%?
You know what? Let me double check, because I don't want to give you wrong information.
No problem.
Let's see. I believe it's 20% of your grade.
Oh, okay. And the 3 Excel assignments, how much do they count for in the grade?
Okay, let's see exactly, because I keep switching it
Because I
around.
grouped 100 all 3 of us.
Okay, so you can look at this on your on the syllabus as well, but I can tell you right now.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So Abraham and Alicia, you say 30% on the syllabus, right? So yeah, that's what I'm doing then this semester. Yeah, final exam is 30% of your grade. The Excel assignments were altogether is 20% of your grade. Your
Okay.
homework, meaning my lab and all the participation during class, is 20% of your grade. And then those first two exams that you took together is 30% of your grade. So there's a good breakdown on the syllabus if you want to double check.
Okay. Is it possible that you'll do the higher midterm of the first two of them, you'll count more, or you don't do that?
No, I take the average of both.
Okay.
Okay.